Hi everyone, I'm Nicholas Khoo from Singapore. It's good to be with you again. I think the last time I was with you in this event I was actually physically in Cyberport. Right, time has definitely flown by. The world has changed, and even in the dynamic world of esports, things have really changed. One of the new developments I've been working on has been this whole genre around virtual sports. Some people call it active esports. In this case, in this particular sport that I'm working on, we call it Cycling Esports. And I'm here to share with you a bit from our Singapore perspective, how it's been developing and how potentially it might develop. So just a brief history, right? It's very short, only since 2019. For those of you who are familiar with cycling, virtual cycling, this company, a private company called Zwift, has really kind of taken a lot of dominance and leadership in this aspect, and they've also done a good job in working with different sporting governing bodies, including the likes of IOC and UCI, which is like the world governing body for cycling as a whole. And in 2019, they announced that they would hold the first ever Cycling Esports World Championship in 2020, sanctioned by the UCI. And then it happened in 2020, featured a men's and women's event over a virtual 50-kilometer route and 483 meters of simulated elevation gain on the Zwift platform. I'll have some videos to show you later, and you can see a bit of that, what we're talking about in terms of the elevation gain. Following that success of that event, especially I think that I remember seeing that event on, I think it was YouTube, and the athletes were racing from home, and I think it was very successful. Everyone was watching this from the lockdown in their homes, right, during the pandemic. And following that, the International Olympic Committee announced its first ever Olympic virtual series. I think it's a significant announcement. It shows that the IOC is ready to embrace esports, or at least virtual sports. And virtual cycling, or cycling esports, was announced as one of the titles, and it was in partnership with UCI, and this Zwift platform was chosen part of OVS as part of cycling esports, right? The first OVS took place between in June this year, just before the Tokyo Games, and it will be taking place again, right, in February next year. And there'll be right now, I think there have been pre-qualifiers that's been run, where the best will be invited to join, and from each country, organized by the local cycling federations, and then they will send representatives to like continental or regional qualifiers, and then the best will take part in the World Championships. Now, let's kind of pause for a moment to think about what this means, right? The good thing about cycling esports as compared to virtual or real cycling, there's quite a few benefits. First of all, you can continue to run regardless of whether the players come together in one physical place or not. That's, I think, one of the huge benefits. You have certainty of your venue, regardless of the pandemic. I think that's one huge advantage, right? And if you think about it, when you do a physical cycling event, you have to do road closures, a lot of planning, the amount of production, the camera crews, over, let's say, 50 kilometers or even more. That's a lot of resources in production. In the case of esports or cycling esports, as you will see from some examples and videos that I'll show you later, right after this, you can see that the production can all be in one place. And yeah, it's a lot, the environment is a lot more controlled as compared to producing a physical cycling event over tens or hundreds of kilometers away. I think that's the beauty of it. And one thing I've learned is that cycling may not always be seen as the safest sport, right? Because you're on the road, there might be hazards, and in many countries, perhaps the regulatory environment is still not matured enough. You may not have cycling lanes and all that. So because of that, schools, administrators, teachers, and all that might be somewhat resistant or reluctant to have their students get into cycling as a sport, or to officially adopt cycling as a co-curricular activity. However, you don't have that issue here in cycling esports, right? It can be set up as, you can set up a space with indoor in the school. The students can come by and be in a safe, controlled environment. I'll talk a little bit more about that, but perhaps first, it might be best to show you what the event. Okay, so in Singapore recently, the Singapore Cycling Federation did a qualifier in Singapore together with SCOGA, which is Singapore Cyber Sports and Online Gaming Association, and co-produced, right? One brought in the whole SCF, brought in their cycling equipment, their players, their athletes, and all of that, the rules, the sanctioning, and then SCOGA brought in the expertise in the esports, the broadcasting, the production. The venue was at our iconic Singapore Sports Hub, right? And let's just watch this segment of what was produced a few weeks ago.
Selena have kind of come back together. I think Chelsea realizes that it's quite a long race. They're 40 minutes in. She's got a very comfortable gap back to the ladies in 3rd, 4th and 5th. So why not work together with Selena, take turns kind of pedaling, drafting off of each other to save as much energy as possible for these next climbs. So one thing to highlight at the...
Okay, so I hope you got a sense, a snippet of that. And if I kind of just scrub through, you can see, right, the map, the landscape. In this case, is very real, very natural, right? You can see even overtaking, right? And you can see the athletes all in one physical contained area below on the bottom right. They're in an air-conditioned environment. Even then, it can get pretty hot after an hour or two. So all of them have their individual fan blowers blowing at them, and still very, very intense, not unlike the real actual cycling on the road, right? And the good thing is that in this production, within the game or within Zwift itself, you really have stats, which I'm not sure you can get actually in the real in the actual road cycling. But in this case, you have stats, right, around the RPMs, the BPMs, and how much kind of like weight they're putting in. Very, very interesting, right? And as you can hear, they are what we call casters or commentators, right, talking about giving excitement to the audience. So that's one. Let's watch another video.
Darren up near 6 watts per kilo. Arfan trying to hold on. Oh my gosh, this looks so painful. Up into the red for a second there. Look at Arfan's face, breathing super heavy.
Look at Darren.
Darren as well, going really deep. You can see they're leaving it all out there today. So much power being put down. As we can see, I think Darren's just pulling away in the bottom right-hand corner. Arfan not able to match him for now as Darren's going super deep. Yes, Darren
Has pulled away.
pulled away, 5-second gap.
So this one is interesting. If you look at this one, the environment is not natural. It's what we call almost like in the metaverse, right? And that's the beauty of cycling esports. You can change the environment. You can make it short. You can have a race over, let's say, half an hour. You can have it over 3 hours, even longer, right? As long as you can sustain the audience interest. If you take a look at this, right, this is actually an area within the sports hub called the OCBC Arena that we conduct off, right? We had a team from SCOGA produce this, right? If you look at you have to make sure that there's enough electrical power to power the bikes. In this case, these are watt bikes. They are not cheap. They comes in thousands of dollars, right? And it comes with the Zwift built in with a screen in front of them. So it's like kind of like all-in-one bike equipment. When you pedal, right, it's electric powered. You can feel like it's like you're cycling the real thing. If you look at this, for example, towards the end of that clip where they were cycling uphill, right? Even though it's in the metaverse type environment, and you could see they were really, really struggling, right? They're perspiring, even though in air conditioning with blowers blowing in their faces, right? They had their shirts out and all of that. So it's as exciting, as strenuous, as intense as the real thing, right? Very, 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 very close, right? If not, but you need the right equipment. In this case, we had the walk bikes with the Zwift built in, right? And this a lot of these participants are actually in Singapore. They are the national athletes. They're national athletes or players, right? And I think this will only begin to grow, right? I think just want to kind of like end off my presentation with just thoughts of where I think things are going. As you can see, it's just the beginning. We're right at the beginning. It's only started the track. I think with IOC or Olympic Virtual Series, I think this will only begin to grow as the world wakes up, to a new way of working, digital, even sports, even Olympic sports have to adapt and change. And IOC embracing this, right? It's just, I think we're just at the beginning, and I think it will just continue to, it's been hundreds, if not thousands of years that we got here with the Olympics. And just imagine what you would look like, right, in the next 5, 10, 50 or 100 years, right? As far as digital, virtual, esports, cycling could look like. And it doesn't have to stop there, right? Other sports like football, sailing, racing, and all that are all developing their own versions of esports, and some of them are quite very well developed. There's been a lot of buzz of late about metaverse. As you can see, even cycling esports can have a slice of the action, bit of that pie. What I learned in just having the team produce this year's qualifiers for cycling esports event is that there's so much potential as far as access to students and schools where traditional cycling might find it harder to access. And I think with that access into the campuses and the schools, and as opposed to, let's say, more traditional esports where the students or the kids or the gamers, the players are just like more sedentary. In this case, I think the school administrators will find it a lot more welcome if it's a controlled environment and the kids are actually working and pedaling hard, right? So you just think about the potential as far as talent development is concerned, right? Just the whole, it has all the right ingredients to succeed and become a very big sport, right? School, grassroots support, talent development, and endorsement and support right from the top with IOC and UCI. So just a little sharing, right, of how I see it, the little we've done in Singapore. I'm sure in Hong Kong and many other markets, you'll be also embracing this, and I think we look forward to see how we can work together to grow this for everyone. Thank you for your time. It's been great to be with you. Thank you.